Hi, friend. Today I have a special replay for you. This is truly a conversation that is just too good to hear only once. This is something you need to hear, especially when you're running on empty, dismissing symptoms, and wondering why something just feels off. Honestly, it's something we all need to be reminded of every single day. We're talking restoring your health, reconnecting to your worth, and my personal favorite, trusting that inner wisdom you've been talking yourself out of for years. I loved this discussion so much, and I have a feeling it's going to land for you too. All right, let's get into it. Please take a listen and be sure to follow Jessica after you finish. You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burr. In today's episode, I'm sharing a conversation with Jessica Arias, where we talked about restoring health, finding worth, and reconnecting to your inner wisdom. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Okay, I'm so excited to share this with you today. I recently had the honor of sitting down with Jessica Arias, and we had a conversation about so many amazing things. Before we head into that, though, I want to tell you a little bit about Jessica. She is a board-certified functional practitioner and a pioneer in transforming women's health with her unique soul-led coaching programs. And you know, I am all about us finding more ways that we can improve women's health. Her information is fascinating, and she helps women who feel stuck and disconnected from their bodies find hope, clarity, and healing through functional labs, personalized protocols, and guided support. Folks, that is the key, right? It's all of the work that I talk about here, personalized protocols. You are unique. Everything about you is unique. Your health is unique. And as a former corporate executive, Jessica claims to also be a recovering workaholic where she understands the burnout that so many of us are facing, right? We can all get that. And she believes the body is innately designed to heal and works one-on-one with clients to identify where the body is out of balance and restore function systemically. Going beyond standard care, her programs offer permission to rest, permission to speak up, permission to be seen, and permission to break free from the patterns that no longer serve you. It's so funny, right? We all look to external sources for permission to do things. What we talked about in this conversation is having permission to trust yourself, permission to do what you know deep inside is best for you. And this is what Jessica does. She guides women through a transformation to reclaiming true, lasting health while walking them back to themselves. Basically, that means really you remembering what you need to do for you. So we had so much fun talking about all of it. Like I mentioned, I could have just kept talking and talking, but you know that I keep you in mind and I am super respectful of your time. I get it. Everybody is busy. I truly mean it when I say it means a ton to have you here. So I hope that you find her insights helpful. Without further ado, please take a listen. Okay, this is going to be so much fun. Can you start by introducing yourself in the way that you most enjoy?
Absolutely. My name is Jessica Arias, and I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is a mouthful. But how I like to introduce myself is I feel like I'm a mystic midwife,
Oh, that's fun.
women in their health. So I help women who feel stuck or disconnected from their bodies reclaim their health, find clarity, find their purpose again, and find their joy.
Oh, I love that. There's so much that I do want to dive into today. And sometimes I can get yapping away. So if there's one thing that you would like listeners to kind of take away by the end of this discussion, what would it be?
I would say if there's absolutely one thing, I would love for your listeners to know that healing is absolutely possible, no matter the circumstance, and that they are not broken. They're fully capable of healing, and that they don't have to walk that path alone.
That's so good. Now, I saw, and you just mentioned it in your intro a little bit, you had a post that talked about how you receive so much joy from helping women restore health, find worth, and reconnect with inner wisdom. So I'd love to kind of double click on each one. Maybe we start with the restore health and what that looks like for you and for the women that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you mind if I shared a little bit of my personal
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
story with this? So, I the beauty in all of this is that for decades I suffered from mysterious illnesses and chronic symptoms, and I always knew, like, as women, we have this intuition. Everyone is born and they have this innate intuition, but I always feel like it's attributed to the mother's instinct, and we always talk about it as the mother's instinct, but we have it within us, and you know when something is off, when something's not right. And so I would go and see all these specialists. I had all these symptoms, and I was just living in pain and exhaustion for so long. And that's what led me down this path is that I was in an executive role. I was in the corporate environment, and I had so many different times where I was just burned out. But all of this led me to my purpose, which is being the guide that I once needed. And I love that so much because working with women, like that post was all about how when I see another woman tap into that inner wisdom, tap into the healing that's available, start finding themselves again, remembering that they're worth so much. It helps my own healing continue to progress. So that's what the whole post was about. But definitely, I mean, the first leg of that is restoring health. When you're in a chronic state of pain, exhaustion, brain fog, fatigue, and you feel like you're going crazy, I see it all the time on social media. You know, women are posting, they're going to see a specialist. They're seeing, oh, your labs look pretty normal. Like, we don't know what's going on. There's a statistic 80% of autoimmune cases are women, diagnosis are women. And those are just the ones that have actually been diagnosed. So
Yeah.
when you think about like, it's hard enough to ask for help as women. That tends to be a challenge that we have where like we've been programmed to think we can do it all and we can be everywhere at once and help everyone. So you already have to schedule the doctor's appointment. You have to go to the doctor. You have to take time off of work. You have to fit it into the schedule. And then you go and you don't get any answers. And it's like time after time, you're finding yourself in a really frustrating place. And so restoring health is at the very forefront. The first part of my protocol is going to provide you with relief. That's what I want to do, is to have you start feeling better. But it does go deeper than that. It goes deeper than the physiology in my practice and in what I do. And so it's really about restoring balance in the body, but also restoring the emotional side of it, the metaphysical side of it,
Yeah.
really tapping into that as well.
I think that's so important. A few things that you said that I love that you said a lot of times we call it mother's instinct. And I think for people who are not mothers, it's so important to recognize that it's not that, it's your own inner wisdom, that it does not have to be titled that. That is
Correct.
such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up because that lands for me and I'm sure it lands for other folks too. And I think too, when you talk about like women going to the doctors, I hear this so often now with friends, especially in my age group, when we're talking about perimenopause, menopause, like so often they're going to their doctor and their doctor's like, oh no, it's just the way it is. Or, oh no, you're too young. I'm like, no, you're not too young. Like my sister, I'm like, you're in your 40s.
Yep. You are not too young. I did a whole post about that because I mean, I've heard that a dozen times too. And I'm like, well, we know when something's off. We know when our periods start to become irregular. We know that this all of a sudden like spike in anxiety in your cycle is not normal. Like, it's not, it might be common, but it's not normal. I feel like that's a misconception too. Like, it's so common that you just chalk it up and you're like, okay, well, Susie deals with this and Kimberly deals with this, and it's just what you deal with. And it's like, but you don't have to. And it's
Yes.
not normal. Normal means healthy, vibrant, thriving. Like, that's normal. And we're just conditioned to think that we deserve less. Like, we can just settle for less.
Yeah, and I wonder if that kind of ties into even like the worth part of your post, because I feel like you mentioned burnout and people working, like women thinking they have to do it all. So can you maybe even touch a little bit upon like what your thoughts are around worthiness and how that plays into your practice?
Yes. And this is, I mean, all of the things I mentioned in that post just hit my heart so much. This is such a big portion of it for me because I feel like if you were to take 100 women, 90, at least 90 of them are going to say, yeah, I have issues with self-worth. I feel like I'm failing. That's how I felt. I was trying to be the best mom. I was trying to be the best executive. I was trying to be the best wife, the best daughter. And it's like, you're conditioned. We live in a world where you're conditioned to be everything to everyone except yourself. You're taught it's selfish to do that for yourself, but for everyone else, you have to be there. You have to show up. You have to give 100%. And I mean, it's only a matter of time before you start thinking you're only valuable when you're productive, when you're giving, when you're nice to be around, when you're, not speaking up too much and ruffling any feathers, like when you're not being seen too much, like you start getting really conditioned and it creates this inner critic and these voices that are constantly, it's the monkey mind, right? Like they're constantly telling you, you're not doing enough, you're not enough. You need to be doing more. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to one of my girlfriends and they're like, I feel guilty for sitting on the couch, just resting. I feel guilty for
Yeah.
resting. I'm like, I know. And resting is such a critical part of the
Right.
healing process. And so it's like, you can't restore someone's health if you don't break down or dissolve some of this conditioning and these patterns that we've been programmed to live and believe that rest is lazy. Like, no,
Yeah.
you need rest. So finding your worth in being productive or finding your worth in your career, it's great to be proud of all of your accomplishments. I don't want to miscommunicate that at all. Um, but to know that you're worthy just by being here, just in your existence, that you're whole, that there's nothing you need to do to earn that worthiness to heal. That's another thing I think that women tie is like, I'm being punished. My body's punishing me, or I'm not doing enough for my body. I thought I was drinking enough water, or I'm exercising. It's like, but there's this whole other part that's buried way underneath all of that that has
Yeah.
the self-worth.
That's, like, where the gold is, and I mean, especially with the folks that I, like, have surrounded by me, sales, right? So much of it is tied to, like, a number. Even the way we speak, like, quarter to quarter, you go from hero to 0, and "What have you done for me lately?" Right? And so it's such a tie, and I just even think about, like, how women in general are kind of tied to numbers when we look at, scales, when we look at the weight, our weight, and when we look at, revenue numbers or whatever it is, and that to make that disconnection, and what's kind of coming up for me is I even wonder, as people are listening and you're using the word healing, if they even recognize, like they might think that's not me. I don't need to heal. There's nothing wrong with me. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, and there is nothing wrong with you. I promise there is nothing wrong with you. Um, I think I love this generation. It's the millennial generation. For a long time, everyone used the term millennial really incorrectly. Millennials, we're in our 40s. We have families. We're experiencing something that I feel like we watched our parents get old and they did the best that they could, and we're watching them suffer with a lot of health problems. And oftentimes we're raising children and we're raising this new generation, and we're kind of the in between. And we're also literally living in the in between right now with who we were. And we're coming into our 40s, and they always call it a crisis. I'm like, it's not a crisis, it's a calling. It's a calling. Like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? You spent the first half in survival. And so now what do you want to do? How do you want to thrive in the second half? And I probably got away from your question too much, but
Not at all. Not at all. I think you're spot on because I do think that's it. Like, if people don't recognize that this is like you're in it.
yeah, you're in the in between. And while the in between can be super uncomfortable and you are kind of getting like pulled back and forth with expectations and, like I said, who you were to survive and who you really want to be, and you're starting to tap into all of that and feelings and emotions are coming up. I think the 40s is probably for men and women when a lot of that starts to come up that you're like, I don't need healing. And then you start experiencing like, maybe I'm not as feeling as great as I used to. Maybe I don't have as much energy. And it starts to just kind of stack. And so by the time someone comes to see me, they are experiencing symptoms and like symptoms that are frustrating enough and cutting into the quality of their life. But I think everyone has some opportunity to elevate where they're at, how they feel, how they're experiencing their life. Like there's always ways to find more joy, to find more beauty, to connect more in relationships with yourself, with your children, with your friends, your partner.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I feel like I always talk about kind of like spirals of growth. And I think that kind of going back to your post in that final part is that you need to have that connection of inner wisdom. And I feel like for me, it probably didn't come till the 40s. And now I'm into my early 50s. And so I feel like even more so, I want to talk about this so that more younger women like hear, like pay attention to those symptoms before they get to the point where like, it's really causing problems for you in your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. And I just like trusting yourself because in your 20s, you're so out there, you're exploring, you're trying new things, like you're out there living your life and in your by the time you're 40, like even in your late 30s, you're really starting to understand what you value. Like you're starting to understand that it's not sustainable to keep giving and not ever giving back into yourself. Like you really are becoming so much more confident, but yet the outside world wants to tell you how you're losing so much value. You're getting older, you're getting wrinkles, you're not as valuable anymore because you're not young and you don't have like it's whether it's subtle or loud, you're just constantly bombarded by like, oh, you're getting out of your clock's ticking and this, that, and the other. And you're like, I'm discovering, like, I'm finally done and kind of fed up, to be honest, with everything you've been telling me. Like, I'm ready to live my truest, greatest life now. But it kind of takes that long before.
Yes. I know as much as I'm always like, "I just wish people could hear it when they're younger," I'm like, I'm sure people probably tried to tell me that too when I was that age, but, like, you have to live your path and it's your journey. Maybe we can just put out little seeds of information to help, speed it along for some of the people, like, trust that inner wisdom.
I love that. And I think sometimes too, they're just not ready to hear. So you can show them, right? Like you can show them that it's okay to rest. They watch you rest. You can show them it's okay to do things just for fun, just because you like doing them, not because they're tied to a number or tied to revenue. You just love doing that. So you're going to do it painting, dancing, taking a walk in nature, whatever it is for you. Like we can show them and set a different example for those younger women, I think.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think too, to the point that you've mentioned a couple times, it's also like it's to be expected if that's what we've been modeled and conditioned to believe. And like even now when we start to build the awareness of it, like it's even okay. I still catch myself sometimes. I was just talking to someone about how we're on vacation and I recognized that my resting heart rate on my aura ring was like increasing. And I think it was because I was like, I'm relaxing, I'm on vacation. See how good I am.
I was like, there's something you need to do. You need to go check on something. You go check that spreadsheet. You have stuff to do. What are you doing?
Right? So it's just like, okay, I see you. It's okay. Like just to remind yourself, like totally cool. Um, I think that's so important. And I also want to dive into, you're right, it's a mouthful. So with your title, when we're talking about functional diagnostic nutrition, I think by level setting, can you maybe just start with like the basics of that so that maybe the listeners know, but just so I'm very clear on it.
Absolutely. So yes, it's FTN for short. And it's a program that was developed that I really fell in love with because it spoke to me. It wasn't like a really, I came from a marketing and executive marketing background, and FTN, when I signed up, was not highly flashy or didn't have the best marketing. It wasn't pretty and sparkles, but it had the depth of knowledge that I was looking for. And it really, the certification really walks you through on such a deep level how the body works, how the systems work together. It goes really, like, it's really rigorous in the testing. When I saw the testing schedule and all of the practicals you have to do, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this
So
is a lot.
legit.
Yeah. And I have definitely learned to listen to my intuition. So that I chose that program out of the feeling that this was the right program for me, and I knew it. And so FDN covers all of your major core systems. So, like, we look at if a client comes to me and I'm looking from a physiological standpoint, I'm looking at what's happening with their hormones, what's happening with their detoxification pathways, what's happening with their adrenals and their stress response, oxidative stress, what's going on with energy production. Are they able to create sustained energy, that not the frantic, wired and tired energy? Are they able to have sustained energy? Sleep patterns, circadian rhythm. Like, it's looking at all of your core systems and then doing functional labs to get the data points. I also do a really thorough intake process. So it's matching up the data with the actual lived experience. What symptoms are happening? Are they getting worse or better? What's contributing to the symptoms? What's going on with stress factors? And have there been any, emotionally triggering events in the past? I don't care if it was 15 years ago, like, what happened in the past? And so it takes everything as a whole and it looks at the body as a whole, because what happens is your body is so smart. It's so smart, and it's always trying to come back to homeostasis, which is balance. So by the time someone comes to see me with symptoms, the issue could have started way downstream. And that's called metabolic chaos, because it happened so far removed from the actual symptom that you can't just treat everyone as the same person. If someone comes in and they have symptoms, you can't just say, oh, well, that's because of A, B, C, and D. You've got to do this whole process with the intake, with the tracker, with the functional labs, looking at all those core systems to say, okay, where did it start to dysfunction? And then how did that cascade into all these other systems? Because they're all connected. And so it's really taking that holistic approach and looking at that metabolic cascade of what happens and then restoring that balance. And as you restore balance in one area, it's going to start to restore balance in another area. And so that's really, I would say, like, the philosophy is bringing the body back into balance and looking at how all the different systems really interact with one another.
I think that's so important. And the more and more I research like different areas, and my like day job, corporate work, is I work with pain patients. And so I can see the importance of like by the time I meet them, they are way far down the path of like they've tried, we're kind of at the end of the treatment options. And so I always am thinking like, okay, Louise Hay, right? Like all of the work she has about different emotional ties to like pains and stuff. I'm always like, oh, I wonder what happened there, if it's their back or if it's like, I think there's so much to this level of work that is not in like our kind of everyday lives that but I'm happy to hear, and I think it's kind of shifting a little bit more. Just recently someone that I work with, they were talking about like an NFL player was talking about visualization and mindset and how important it is, and he's like, it's finally getting mainstream. I'm like, finally.
Finally.
Finally. But like the breath work and somatic work, like all of that is so important. And I think we hear a lot about like gut brain health. Would you say, like, do you do a lot of work around that also? And what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And I love it. I love that you brought that up as well, because when you look, we're so like sometimes isolated to North America. When you look outside of North America, like you really have to kind of segment off Western medicine and what we're used to and navigating Western medicine and traditional care, which has its place. And we work with MDs all the time. But then when it comes to like creating health and maintaining health, we're not really taught how to do that. And so we're often restoring health because people do come to us with chronic symptoms, chronic pain. But also, if you can prevent it before it happens, which is amazing, that's really the way to go. And all the other, rest of the world takes that into account when they're looking at traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic, like all of this is looking at the body as a whole. But yes, the gut brain axis or the gut brain connection, you'll hear about that all the time. And it's not in your head. I always say it's not in your head, it's in your gut. Because I think when people think about the gut, they just think about the stomach, but we're actually talking about like the intestines and where everything is broken down and assimilated into your body. So your intestines, your gut has like an intestinal barrier and it's permeable. Just like the blood-brain barrier is permeable, meaning things can come in and out. They share kind of similar tight junctions to kind of make sure that the bad stuff stays out and the good stuff comes in. That's what they want. So if you're thinking about the gut and how that works, like you produce so much serotonin in the gut, GABA in the gut. And so if that's traveling up through the vagus nerve that connects directly to the brainstem, you're constantly having this gut-brain connection. And if your gut's a mess, for whatever reason, if it's inflamed due to biochemical, stress or emotional stress, you're going to have some sort of dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in your gut. So you're not going to be able to produce the neurotransmitters. That production's going to decline. And so when you're thinking about neurotransmitters that need to go to the brain and send off signals, that signaling communication, if that's dysregulated or there's dysfunctioning happening, yeah, that's why we hear about brain fog. I just feel like I can't remember things. I'm having a hard time focusing. Like so much of that, I guarantee you there's dysbiosis and there's some severity of leaky gut going on. It's so common. Like I can't guarantee it. Not everyone's going to have it, but it's just with our diet and with the amount of chronic stress that we're under. Like I haven't seen a single person who hasn't had some form of digestive gut issues. Most common dysbiosis, but definitely like that permeability in that intestinal wall is very, very common.
So I wonder, then that also kind of makes me think when we talk about perimenopause, menopause, like the whole transition, and we often hear about bloating and we hear about the brain fog. And so that is that like kind of where the tie-in is for some of these people, that it's like figuring out what's going on at the gut level hormonally, like it's probably, I guess, a package deal that we're so lucky to have.
Definitely affects everything. So it will also affect hormone production. The other part of this that doesn't get taken into account, I think, as often as it should, is the liver. So the liver, when you think about like the blood that's getting filtered, the liver is filtering the blood. And the blood is also helping to recycle hormones or filter out byproducts that are not useful for your body, right? Like it's trying to get rid of what your body doesn't need. And it's working overtime to do that because we're constantly bombarded with toxic chemicals in our food and our air and all this stuff. Plus, we have emotional stress. When you're under like fight or flight, your body's not going to focus on like healing the gut. It's because it thinks you're literally trying to survive. You're trying to run away from something that's attacking you. So the liver plays a big part in this as well. And when you have that constant drip of cortisol, that constant stress, it starts causing dysregulation, which if your liver is sluggish, you're not going to produce the hormones or recycle the hormones properly. Even iron, you're not going to be able to break down and recycle iron properly, which means that you're not going to have the energy. It's also going to cause a cascade and have dysfunction in your gut, or in your gut could cause dysfunction in your liver if you've got like a pathogen or you've got an imbalance there and you don't have enough good bacteria. It all plays into each other. And I think those three, the brain, the gut, and the liver, that's really where you start seeing breakdown and dysregulation. As far as perimenopause, a lot of that actually has to do with like blood sugar levels and making sure that your blood sugar is stable. And I think it's also by the time you're 40 and 50, you've accumulated so much in your body and it's had to compensate for a long time. You do have a drop in estrogen. That's when you know that, or estradiol, that's when you know that you're really starting to go into like perimenopause. There's not a single test to let you know that you're like in perimenopause. Not that I know of, but you do drop in estrogen, which causes a lot in and of itself. But if you can manage your blood sugar really well and you take really good care of yourself, there's a lot of preventative things you can do to kind of help with that transition. It is very frustrating though.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because even as you're saying that, I think back to like my 30s, 40s, and I think it's not just me. I don't think it's just me. And like women, right? I remember like kind of what got me all started on the coaching path was that like everything looks externally very good, right? I have a great job, everything, good family, marriage, whatever. But I still felt like something was missing. Like there's got to be more to life. But then, like 30s, 40s, I feel like women are kind of, in the quote unquote prime of their career. So they're hustling for all of that, maybe having kids, maybe not. So they could be dealing with two, sets of different emotions there. And at the end of the day, like they're stressed, you want some wine. And so when we talk about the liver, right? Like we're having that extra glass of wine, then we feel sluggish, then we shame ourselves. Like it's such a cycle. And then you think of like how that just keeps like snowballing.
It's such a cycle. 100% you're spot on. And it's the most stressful time. And you just think about all the different phases that women go through, and then it's just kind of brushed off. Like I had my son when I was 35, which PS, they coined that as a geriatric.
I was gonna say that. Yes, yes, yes. I've been there.
You get
And without the kid.
you get an extra ultrasound because you have a geriatric pregnancy. Super, thank you. Like if one more person tells me that. Um, so like just and I had a cesarean. He had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck 4 times. But it's like you get the 3 months, if you're lucky, you get the 3 months of um, your
Maternity leave or
maternity
family leave
leave,
or yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
space, and then you go right back to work. And it's like the amount, like what happens to your hormones, your body on a physiological level, on a cellular level, on your metaphysical, your energy, where your head's at, where I mean, you're trying to keep a little human alive. And for me, I have 3 beautiful stepchildren, but that was my first biological son. And I was a new mom at 35 in the middle of my career as an executive. I'm going back to work. I'm trying to balance my hormones. I'm trying to, do everything for everyone. And it's just the amount of stress that puts on someone. And we just always kind of like, yeah, you just do it. You just do it. Like,
Yeah. And then I think there's a whole next level of like redefining what success is because you've been in that corporate executive role. And that's kind of where I see a lot of the people I've worked with. Like that is the definition of like, you're right, achievement and success. And now you're a mom. And now you're not doing maybe all the things that you did at work. And now, right, it's that whole balance of just.
comparing, like you said, comparing like from the outside, it looks like you have it all. Like, oh, she's got the job, she's got the family, she's got the husband, she's got this, the that, whatever. Like we are so conditioned to compare and contrast our life with someone else. And it's like, what is my truth? What is my success? What does success feel like? I always like to go back to feelings. If I am successful, what does that feel like? And then you can engineer your life to have that feeling all the time or most of the time. Um, And it's very interesting. You're so spot on because that just shifts. There's a big shift in your 40s and 50s. Like,
Yeah.
is it all worth it? Is all this for everything to look so great on the outside? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Am I happy? Am I finding joy?
Right. And what brings me joy, I feel like when I was first asked that by my coach, and I've said this a number of times on the podcast, it was like the hardest question ever. She was like, "Well, Michelle, what do you want?" I was like, "What kind of
I
question is
want.
that?"
What do you mean? What do I want? No one asked me that.
Right? And I think that goes back to your point about the trusting the inner wisdom. Like we need to know that that's where it's at.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I will always be an advocate for that. I don't know if it's because I don't know how many of your listeners are. I always say don't poo poo the woo woo
Oh,
because there's a lot of wisdom in the woo woo. It's not
yep.
called ancient wisdom for no reason. It's ancient because there's something there.
It's something to it.
Well, I've always just been that, like, intuitive person. I've always been tapped in, but even when I was a child, it's like you start to separate yourself from that part of you because of all this outside influence. You don't wanna be the, quote, "weird one,"
Yeah.
or you don't wanna say things that make you excluded, or you don't wanna you're constantly trying to fit in and normalize, and you just, from a young age, are taught that you need to seek advice and validation from outside of yourself, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Yes, yes. I think that's so true. I know they call me crazy Aunt Michelle like, because I do try to teach our nieces like some of the crazy like energy wand experiments. And now even at work, I'm like, you guys were manifesting. This is gonna be amazing. And they're like, what is she talking about? We're gonna manifest this to work. It's gonna be perfect.
I know my entire team, when I was there, they were all so used to it, like, we were all just one big family, and yeah, they were used to it.
That's so great. This has been so much fun. I could talk for hours and hours. Is there anything that we're missing before we kind of bring it to a close? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot. We could do a whole nother segment, but for
I would
today.
just say I would just say get curious, like, we're so like we talked about, we're so critical. We are conditioned to be so critical of ourselves, and especially when you're not feeling well, and you start having that whole, track of I'm a burden and I can't take care of myself and I'm not, like I was 10 years ago. I would really say tap into that inner wisdom, tap into that intuition, sit in the silence, in the stillness, and learn to really understand that your body is just trying to speak with you. It's just trying to communicate. So if you can get curious about what it's trying to communicate, what do I need in this moment right now, instead of saying what's wrong with me, I think that shift, that tiny shift from what do I need right now instead of what's wrong with me is so big.
Oh, I love that curiosity. That is like gold. So good.
Just that one thing. Otherwise, I know lots of advice from lots of different people, but yeah, let's get curious about yourself.
And where can people find you?
Yeah, great. They can find me on Instagram. It's at Jessica Health and Healing. And then my website for my practice is groundedhealthandhealing.com. They can go there, schedule a free discovery call if something today resonated and you're looking to not walk the path alone. I would be honored to walk that path with you. So, yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Wasn't that great? I just love discussions like these. I love to have them. I love to share them with you. And I truly do hope that you take what landed and begin implementing new ideas that help you step into the next season of the life that you most want. Okay, be sure to connect with Jessica. As always, please do share this with a friend so that we can continue to grow. And do you want to know something super fun? We are a global podcast here. Places like Australia, of course, the US, right? Canada, Switzerland, United Kingdom, to name a few. And that is because of you. So thank you. Let's keep it going. It feels so abundant. I truly mean that. So abundant to think that folks are taking the time to hang out here. We're all together, and I am really so appreciative. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back here next week. But for now, make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.